The 1954 NBA All-Star Game was a pivotal event in basketball history, showcasing the top talents of the NBA in a highly competitive environment. This game was notable for its intensity, featuring a dramatic finish and outstanding performances from several key players. It also marked the end of one of the first great eras with Hall of Fame careers writing their last chapters. The year before, the 1953 All-Star Game at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum has often been regarded as one of the worst All-Star games in NBA history. Everything was bad, even the 53 jerseys were bad cause the West wore white, the East wore blue. The 1954 NBA All-Star Game has much better jerseys. It also has a lot to live up to. The league is growing. A new era begins here. January 21, 1954. Location, Madison Square Garden, New York City. The Minneapolis Lakers are dominating the early NBA with 4 championships in 5 years. Notably, George Mikan, their star player, suffered a broken leg in 1951 but made a remarkable comeback. The Lakers could and will achieve the first ever three-peat. This contributes to the West's impressive 7-year winning streak. Best teams at the time were, 1. The New York Knicks. 3 straight NBA Finals losses. 1951 and 52 were in Game 7s. LOL Knicks fans. 2. Syracuse Nationals. The 76ers have a past NBA Finals appearance and they'll make it again. This year, only to lose to the Lakers, again. 3. The Minneapolis Lakers. 4 championships in 5 years. Reigning repeat champs. 4. The Rochester Royals. The Kings were 1951 champs. This historical context sets the stage for understanding the significance of the 1954 NBA All-Star Game and the remarkable performances of its players. Let's dive deeper into the details of this iconic event. By 1953, the East held a 2-1 record over the West. George Mikan was the reigning All-Star MVP with impressive stats of 22 points, 16 rebounds, and 2 assists in 53. He was the best in the world. The East had a strong lineup, with players like Bob Cousy leading in assists and Paul Arizin dominating points. The West, despite their 1-2 record, had notable achievements, including George Mikan's record rebounds and points. Overall, the game highlighted the dominance of key players and the growing competition between the East and West divisions. We'll look at some significant analytics to understand the game a bit more. What is PER? Player Efficiency Rating, PER, is a statistical measure created by basketball analyst John Hollinger to summarize a player's overall statistical performance in a single number. It takes into account a player's positive achievements like points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, and subtracts negative aspects like missed shots, turnovers, and personal fouls. The league average PER is set to 15.0 every season. Why does PER show the best players? PER aims to provide a comprehensive measure of a player's productivity per minute played. High PER values indicate high levels of efficiency and performance across various statistical categories, which is why players with high PER are often considered among the best in the league. It allows for comparisons across different players regardless of their playing time or era, making it a useful tool for evaluating overall impact and efficiency. In 54, George Mikan, Neil Johnston and Dolph Schayes are the PER leaders. As you can see, Mikan was GOAT in the early 50s, better than all other players at the time by a large margin. Notice how the next few players' PERs are blue. No one else in the West was as good as the beasts of the East. Why is offensive win share important? OWS helps to measure impact, quantifies a player's effectiveness in contributing to their team's wins through offense. Compare players, provides a standardized measure to compare offensive contributions across different players and seasons. Evaluate efficiency, highlights players who are not only high scorers but also efficient and impactful in their offensive roles. Context sensitivity, can be influenced by team dynamics and pace of play. Example: a player like Stephen Curry, known for his exceptional shooting and playmaking, typically has high OWS, reflecting his significant role in his team's offensive success. Neil Johnston led the league and the Warriors in OWS. So the Warriors are good on offense this year, and he's a big reason why. Why is DWS important? DWS helps to measure defensive impact, quantifies a player's effectiveness in contributing to their team's wins through defense. Compare players, provides a standardized measure to compare defensive contributions across different players and seasons. Highlight defensive strengths, identifies players who excel in defensive roles, even if their offensive stats are not as prominent. Team context, can be influenced by the team's defensive strategies and overall performance. Example: a player like Rudy Gobert, known for his shot blocking and defensive presence, typically has high DWS, reflecting his significant role in his team's defensive success. George Mikan and two other all-star centers lead the league here. With this graph we are mapping where each all-star lands with their win shares. Mikan and Shea stand out for their defense, Johnston and McCauley for offense. Jack Molinez of the Pistons was selected as an all-star, but he was suspended. You can Google it if you really want to know why. Eddie Miller and Clive Lovelet were all-star snubs in my opinion. The two were backup centers, one for the Bullets, another for the Lakers, but they killed it in their time on court. Neil Johnston of the Warriors led the league in scoring by basically 4 points per game, which is crazy if you look at this graph here. Ed McCauley of the Celtics and George Mikan and of the Lakers were the other two lead scorers. All centers beat TW. There was one new all-star in the Eastern Division, Ray Felix, who is just a rookie. We'll talk about him later. In the East, 3 all-stars came from the Knicks because they were first in the league by wins, deserved. The Celtics, despite being third, also had 3 all-stars. The Nats had 2 all-stars and the Warriors and Bullets had 1 each. Bob Cousy was selected as an East All-Star for the 4th straight time in his 4 seasons. He ranked as one of the best offensive players in the league, being number 1 in scoring for a non-center. Ray Felix was just 22 years old when he was drafted first overall by the Baltimore Bullets, the worst team in the league this year. Sadly, the Bullets are still bad. In fact, they would end up folding at the end of the year, and that's part of the reason why this year is Ray Felix's only ever All-Star appearance. He was the second ever Black All-Star. Ray was moved to New York the following season, where he didn't take as many shots, wasn't as efficient from the free throw line, and as a result he was less efficient, and at the highly competitive center position, he never had a chance to be an All-Star despite being good and playing many more years. Ed McCauley leads the Celtics in many stats, another 4-timer. He's one of the best players in the league as well. This season he's averaging a career high in field goal percentage, leading the league in it too. Dolph Chase is the starting center for the Syracuse Nationals, part of the reason why they're the second best team in the East. Excellent on both the offensive and defensive end of the floor, he's what we call a real superstar. D. McGuire, his numbers may look diminutive, but he's the starting point guard for the Knicks, who have made 3 straight NBA Finals. He's been consistently putting up solid assist numbers every year. Bill Sharman, shooting god for the Boston Celtics, is known as super skilled. He's leading the league in free throw percentage, huge offensive efficiency too. Third in OWS. Carl Braun, basically ever since coming back from military service he's just picked up what he left off as the Bill Sharman of the Knicks. The Knicks are more successful at the time, so Bill Sharman, who's more remembered today, is the Carl Braun of the Celtics at the time. Harry, the Horse, Gallatin, another season in here he is again basically leading the league in rebounds, helping the Knicks be the number 1 team in the league. He's another 4-timer too. Neil Johnston, top scorer in the league, is coming off the bench as a reserve in the All-Star game. And rounding off the East All-Stars is Paul Seymour of the Syracuse Nationals. One of the rare defensive and offensive combo guards of the 50s. There was only one new All-Star in the West as well, another rookie. The rest was made up of former All-Stars. The Hawks had one All-Star and the Pistons, Royals and Lakers all managed to get 3 All-Stars each. Jim Pollard of the Lakers, one of the best athletes in the NBA at the time, made his 3rd All-Star appearance. His first 2 years were 2 years before, so at the age of 31 he's one of the oldest All-Stars and most accomplished too. Bobby Wanzer of the Rochester Royals once again is an All-Star this year, giving another solid season at 32 years old. One of the oldest All-Stars in the league. George Mikan, best player in the world, also an offensive and defensive superstar. He is still first in PER, won the championship, and Advanced Stats lists this as his best season. Box score-wise, Mikan slowly declined. From an NBA perspective, the Minneapolis Lakers dynasty has only been convincingly surpassed by the 11-title Boston Celtics dynasty of 1957-69. At the end of the 1953-54 season, Mikan announced his retirement. In the middle of the 1955-56 NBA season, Mikan returned to the Lakers lineup. He played in 37 games, but only 10.5 points, 8.3 rebounds and 1.3 assists, and the Lakers lost in the first round of the playoffs. He was the first NBA player to score 10,000 points in a career. He was inducted into the inaugural Basketball Hall of Fame class of 1959 and was declared the greatest player of the first half of the century by the Associated Press. But obviously in 1954, he's still best in the world. Mel Hutchins made his 2nd NBA All-Star game before LeBron James even made one. Slater Martin's numbers don't look good compared to modern numbers, but he played a lot of minutes on one of the greatest teams of all time, so I'm sure this All-Star selection is valid. Bob Davies of the Rochester Royals, 1951 NBA champ and another 4-timer, this was the last season of his prime. He was one of the 10 players named to the NBA 25th anniversary team in 1971. Larry Faust of the Pistons, who surprisingly, when I looked at the numbers, has all the makings of an offensive superstar, high up there in PER, points per game, rebounds per game, he's a leader everywhere, both offensively and defensively. He's also basically been an All-Star all 4 times. He's a 4-timer, but he was injured in 52, so that one technically doesn't count. Arnie Risen, 3-time All-Star, was the first ever All-Star snub in 1951. Luckily he's made it every year since. Also a member of the 1951 NBA champion Rochester Royals. Andy Phillip, point guard for the Pistons, was also one of the best guards in the league, specifically offensively. He is known for his good passing. Don Sunderlage was top 20 in points, free throws and free throw percentage. I think for that reason they chose to make him a rookie All-Star. Then, after he was traded from the Hawks, he was out of the league. The Eastern Division held an 84-82 edge with only seconds remaining in the game. Then, George Mikan of the Lakers was fouled. Mikan proceeded to make both foul shots, which sent the game into overtime. In the extra period, Cousy scored 10 points to secure a 98-93 victory. The 1954 All-Star Game, despite going into overtime, was the last All-Star Game in which neither side reached 100 points. In the end, it was good games from Bob Cousy and the Beasts of the East that were too much for West veterans like Bobby Wanzer, Bob Davies, George Mikan and Jim Pollard, as well as Larry Faust and Harry, the Horse, who had 15 and 18 rebounds in the game for some reason, respectively. Jim Pollard's 23 were the 3rd most anyone had ever had in an All-Star game up until this point. Similarly, for Harry Gallatin's 18 rebounds, it was the most ever in a single game. Larry Faust's 15 matched Mikan's 15 from 1952. And even though this was George Mikan's last All-Star game, he left it number 1 all-time in points, number 1 all-time in rebounds, and with 5 championships in 6 seasons. But yeah, that was the 54 season. Please subscribe if you want to see future videos including 1955. Follow at Frontiers Basketball for more. See you next time.